My brother-in-law confessed he loved my wife. That was just the beginning. I never imagined that a quiet lunch invitation could unravel my entire family. It started just yesterday. My brother-in-law, the man married to my sister, the father of her 2 kids, asked my wife to meet him for lunch. Totally out of the blue. He said there was something important he needed to talk to her about. When she told me, she looked confused but not too alarmed. "Do you think it's about your sister?" she asked, frowning slightly. "Maybe they're having issues, and he just wants a woman's perspective." "Honestly, it didn't seem that far-fetched. We're a close family. We look out for each other." He's texted my wife before, but only about normal stuff, family dinners, birthday plans, school events for the kids. It never crossed my mind that anything could be off. So I shrugged. "Go find out," I said. "See what he wants." She agreed, deciding to meet him at a small cafe near her office the next day. That morning, while getting ready for work, she brought it up again. "I still don't really get what this is about," she said, the concern starting to show on her face. I tried to reassure her. "It's probably nothing. Just hear him out. If it's something serious, we'll figure it out together." The cafe she picked was always busy during lunch hours, exactly why she chose it. Being around other people made her feel safer, I guess. She got there a little early and picked a seat by the window so she could see the entrance. He showed up a few minutes later, looking more nervous than she'd ever seen him. They made small talk at first, work, the kids, regular stuff. But as soon as their food arrived, everything shifted. He took a deep breath and dropped the bomb. He started with a compliment. Said she looked beautiful. At first, she thought he was just being polite. But then he kept going. "You've always been the light in my life," he told her. "I've never felt this way about anyone before. It was love at first sight. You make me feel alive in a way I never have." Then he said it. "I've loved you since the moment I first saw you. If you were mine, I'd treat you like a queen. I'd give you everything." My wife was stunned. Frozen. She couldn't even wrap her head around what he was saying. This was my brother-in-law. My sister's husband. The guy who's always been the goofy uncle to our kids. The one who shows up to every family barbecue, every Christmas, every damn holiday. And here he was, spilling his heart out to her like he'd been holding this in for years. He went on and on, painting this fantasy life they could have had together, how he'd watched her from a distance, convinced they were meant to be. She tried to stop him, tried to tell him this was wrong, that he was making a mistake, but he kept going. Like he'd rehearsed every word. Sure, he and my wife always had a friendly relationship. But it was never weird. They joked, like everyone else in the family. He texted her sometimes, but so did my mom. So did my brother. It was all normal, until this. She walked out mid-lunch. Didn't say a word. Just stood up, her chair screeching across the floor. She called me right after, her voice shaking as she tried to explain what had just happened. I couldn't believe it. None of it made sense. She was still on the phone with me when the texts from him started pouring in. At first, it was apologies. He said he didn't mean it. That it wasn't real love, just a moment of weakness. That maybe it was just infatuation, and he'd made a mistake. He kept insisting he was sorry for making her uncomfortable. But it was too late for that. Damage like this doesn't get undone with a few sorries. She left work early and came straight home. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing, calls, texts, more voicemails from him. I told her to answer one. "Put him on speaker," I said. When she did, his voice came through, choked with emotion. He was crying. Full on sobbing, actually. "Please don't tell your husband's sister," he begged. "She doesn't need to know. It was a mistake. I misread the signs. I thought your wife felt the same way." I was listening the whole time. Apparently, he believed that at some point, during a quiet moment in our kitchen last weekend, my wife had been flirting with him. That there had been a look, a spark, something that made him think this was mutual. I'll admit, my wife has a strong personality. She jokes hard, teases people, doesn't hold back. It's part of what makes her who she is. And yeah, I guess someone who's desperate to believe something might twist that into flirtation. But this? This was delusion on a whole different level. He asked if she had told me, and I said yes, I was listening. That's when he started begging me directly, pleading with me not to say anything. "Please, man, don't ruin my life. Don't destroy our family. It was just her. I swear. Just her. No one else." I asked him directly, had he ever done this before? Had he cheated on my sister with someone else? He swore he hadn't. He swore on his kids' lives that my wife was the only one. That it had always been her. That's when I hit my limit. I told him I wasn't making any decisions that night. That I needed time. I'd call him tomorrow. But in that moment, I already knew this wasn't something that could be ignored. This wasn't going away. And the longer we sat on it, the worse it would get. My wife wanted to drive straight to my sister's house and tell her everything. She was furious, disgusted, heartbroken, not for herself, but for my sister. For the kids. For the entire family. But I couldn't move. The thought of blowing up my sister's life, of breaking her heart, of seeing what this would do to my nieces, it made me feel sick. I was literally nauseous just imagining the fallout. I knew what the right thing was. I knew we couldn't hide this. But I also knew that even if they somehow patched things up, even if she forgave him and they stayed together, nothing would ever be the same again. Our family would never be the same again. I didn't care about him. He was dead to me the second he opened his mouth. But I cared about everyone else. I cared about my sister. About her kids. About my wife. About the long-term wreckage this would leave behind. And I'll be honest. I froze. But everyone who told me I shouldn't have waited to tell my sister, you were right. It was just after noon when my phone rang again. This time, it was my sister. Her voice was shaking. I need to tell you something, she said, barely holding herself together. My stomach dropped. I already knew what was coming, but I couldn't prepare for how twisted it would be. She said her husband, my brother-in-law, had come to her in tears. Crying, shaking, playing the role of the broken man. And then he laid it out. He told her that my wife tried to start an affair with him. I could hardly breathe. He spun it all on her. Said my wife came on to him. That he didn't know how to handle it. That he was scared. Confused. He made himself sound like the victim. I nearly dropped the phone. I cut her off and told her the truth. The real truth. That he had been the one making the move. That my wife had told me everything. That she had walked out the second he crossed the line. She went quiet. I'm coming over, I told her. We need to talk. In person. This couldn't happen over the phone. Not something like this. As soon as I hung up, I called my parents. I barely got the words out. It's about him, I said. It's bad. My dad's voice turned to steel. My mom didn't cry. She went into fix-it mode. They said they'd drive straight to my sister's house to stay with the kids. She was going to need backup. Then I called my younger brother. He answered groggy and confused, but the second I explained what was going on, he said, I'm on my way. I'll stay with your kids. Don't worry about them. His calm, steady presence would be a comfort to them. Meanwhile, my wife was already gathering her things, her face pale and drawn. She was dreading the confrontation, but knew it was necessary. We left the house in a hurry, the drive to my sister's place feeling longer than it actually was. The silence in the car was heavy, both of us lost in our thoughts. When we arrived, the scene was even more tense than I had imagined. My sister is out on the front porch with my brother-in-law when we get there. He looks beaten, eyes downcast, his posture slumped in defeat. He knows we have the texts and voicemails, the undeniable proof of his betrayal. I really don't know what he was hoping to accomplish by calling my sister in the middle of the night with his lies. Maybe he thought he could get ahead of the story, twist the narrative to save himself, but it was a futile effort. As we walk up to them, the tension in the air is palpable. My wife is trembling, her face a mask of controlled anger and hurt. She hands my sister her phone without a word. My sister takes it, her hand steady but her eyes burning with a mix of fury and pain. She scrolls through the texts, her expression hardening with each one she reads. Then she listens to the voicemails, the damning evidence of his declarations, and her refusals. Before she can say anything, my brother-in-law starts sobbing. This is a man who runs into burning buildings, who faces danger daily without flinching. Seeing him like this, broken and vulnerable, is jarring. His cries are deep and guttural, raw with regret and fear. It's a scene that's almost surreal. A big tough firefighter brought to his knees by his own actions. My sister's face remains impassive, a mask of stern resolve. She's always been tough, but right now she's unyielding. She waits for him to finish, her silence more powerful than any words. When he finally quiets down, still hiccuping with the remnants of his sobs, she speaks. Pack a bag and go, she says, her voice cold and clear. I can't stand to look at you. He tries to argue, to plead his case, but she's having none of it. Stop it, she snaps, cutting through his words. There's nothing you can say that will make this better. She turns away from him, walks over to my wife, and pulls her into a hug. It's a moment of solidarity between them, a small comfort in the middle of this nightmare. They've been friends since college, and the strength of their bond is evident. It's a relief to see that despite everything, they're standing together. This leaves me standing with my brother-in-law. He's a wreck, his face red and swollen from crying, his shoulders slumped. He looks at me, his eyes pleading for some kind of understanding or forgiveness, but I have none to offer. He tries to speak, his voice cracking, but I cut him off. You need to leave, I say firmly. This is your mess. You need to deal with the consequences. He nods, defeated, and slowly makes his way inside to pack his things. My sister stays with my wife, the two of them talking quietly, leaning on each other for support. The rest of the night is a blur of conversations and plans. We all rally around my sister, helping her figure out what to do next, how to protect her kids from the fallout. My sister begins questioning my wife, trying to understand why her husband thought any of this could possibly work out. He must have had some reason to believe she reciprocated his feelings. My sister insists that there hadn't been any issues in their marriage, everything had been normal. My wife is crying at this point, tears streaming down her face as she tries to make sense of the situation. There's nothing you haven't seen, she says, her voice shaking. She hands my sister her phone again, and together they painstakingly go through every text message sent over the past 2 years. They read each one carefully, looking for any hint of inappropriate behavior, but there's nothing there. My wife was just being herself. She has a playful personality, always joking around and teasing. It's part of what makes her so lovable and approachable. My brother-in-law has a similar sense of humor, and they've always teased each other in a light-hearted, harmless way. She does the same with my mom and my younger brother. It's just how she interacts with people. The only incident my wife can think of that might have been misconstrued happened this past weekend. She recounts it, trying to pinpoint where things went wrong. They were all together at our place, and she and my brother-in-law both reached for the fridge at the same time. They playfully jostled for who would get there first, laughing as they did so. He let her win, but then he reached around her waist to grab a beer, moving his hand slowly. She admits that in that moment, the way he did it. Later that night, my sister pulled my wife aside again. They sat on the back porch for a long time, just the two of them. I stayed inside, giving them space, but I could still see them through the kitchen window. My wife kept shaking her head, holding her hands over her face. My sister didn't cry, she just listened. When they came back in, I could tell something had shifted. My sister wasn't angry at her. She wasn't cold. If anything, she looked exhausted. Like she had finally let the weight of it all crash down on her. She sat next to me on the couch and said, I don't blame her. But I'm scared that I'll start to. That hit me harder than I expected. Because that's the reality no one talks about. Even when you know who the villain is, pain still looks for a second target. I asked her if she was thinking about forgiving him. She didn't answer right away. Just stared at the floor like it might offer some kind of answer. I don't know, she finally said. I look at our kids and think, they didn't ask for this. They don't deserve to have their world ripped apart. But if I let him stay, I'm telling them this is okay. She looked up at me, and her eyes were glassy. And it's not okay. We talked late into the night, about love, about betrayal, about the fact that sometimes people turn into strangers right in front of you. My wife sat beside me, holding my hand, but I could feel the guilt pouring off her. Even though she did nothing wrong, she still carried it. Because now our family was fractured too. My mom called again, and said she was having trouble sleeping. She didn't know what to do, if she should reach out to my sister, or wait for her to make the first move. My dad, on the other hand, said he'd already erased my brother-in-law's number. Said he wasn't going to waste a single second of his life talking to someone who'd betrayed his daughter, and tried to tear apart her best friend's marriage. Then came the text from my brother-in-law. Not to me. To my wife. I know you hate me. It started. But please don't let this destroy everything. I was confused. I was in a bad place. I never meant to hurt anyone. She read it, then showed it to me. I took her phone, blocked his number, and handed it back. No more. This wasn't a story with a clean ending. There wouldn't be some teary reunion, or one big apology that magically fixed everything. This was our life now. Damaged. Uncomfortable. Fragile. And none of us knew what tomorrow would look like. A few days later, my sister told him not to come back. Not for his stuff. Not for the kids. Not for one last talk. She told him if he wanted to see his children, he could speak to her lawyer. Period. She had already filed for separation. She wasn't wasting time. The strength she showed, it was unreal. But I knew it came at a cost. I'd see it in her eyes when no one was around. The way she stared off into space when the kids weren't looking. The way she flinched every time her phone buzzed. She didn't cry much. But when she did, it was like a dam broke, and then just as quickly, it slammed shut again. The kids knew something was wrong, of course. You can't hide something this big. But they were too young to understand the details. All they knew was that Daddy wasn't coming home, and Mommy was sad, but trying really hard to smile. We all tried to make it easier. My parents started visiting every weekend. My younger brother took the older niece to soccer practice. My wife and I helped with homework, meals, anything we could. But the air felt different now. Like we were walking through the ruins of something that had once been beautiful. As for my wife and me, things didn't go back to normal either. There wasn't mistrust between us, just this heavy, unspoken grief. Like we both knew we'd been robbed of something we didn't even realize was fragile. That closeness we'd always taken for granted? It felt bruised. She blamed herself, even though she had nothing to be sorry for. She kept asking if I believed her, if I really trusted that she hadn't somehow led him on. I told her the truth. I've always trusted you. And I always will. But what he did, that still happened to us. Because it did. It tore through both our lives like a wrecking ball. Not because we let it, but because someone we trusted weaponized that trust. We don't talk about him anymore. Not at family dinners. Not at holidays. His name is like a ghost in the room. Everyone feels it. No one says it. My sister is doing okay now. She's seeing a therapist. Focusing on her kids. Rebuilding. She still hugs my wife every time she sees her. Long and tight. Like she's holding on to something that didn't get destroyed. And as for me, I'm still angry. Still disgusted. But mostly, I'm just sad. Because when someone drops a bomb like that, it doesn't just blow up the target. It takes everything nearby with it too. We're still sweeping up the pieces.
The story may be over, but the conversation is just getting started. Drop a comment below. We read every single one. Leave a like if this story hit you deep. Subscribe so you don't miss more real-life drama and powerful confessions. Share this video with someone who needs to know they're not alone. This is Fam Stories, where we say what others stay silent about. See you in the next story.